So we'll wait for a few minutes, maybe a minute, let the participants join.
Mamta, I really like your background. Till others join, I'll make this comment. And is it not HSBC's Lions? Is it a official? Yeah, okay. So my husband has these statues for his 5 years service, I think. So yeah, we have it at home as well. So it just caught my attention.
Yeah, that's nice. Yes, that's very symbolic of the organization.
Yes. Yes.
What organization is that? Which one? I missed the name.
HSBC. They just
Oh yeah, of course, HSBC. Yeah. Now I can make it out.
So I think we'll start off. Welcome everybody and a very good afternoon. Welcome to this awareness session on how to become a global leader. HYSEA and Divershefy are planning to create the 6-month Global Leader Certification Program. And we will be sharing more details with you today. To kick off the program today, I'll request Ms. Mamta Madhireddy, leader of HYSEA Women Leaders Forum, to set the context and welcome you all. Mamta.
Thank you, Neeraja, and good afternoon to everybody who's joined, and welcome to today's session, which I think will be a very, very insightful and interesting session. So no pressure, Sylvia. So I'll give a bit of a background on, I think, the HYSEA Women Leaders Forum that Neeraja alluded to. The HYSEA Women Leaders Forum was launched in June 2021. And clearly there were certain reasons why, HYSEA felt that a Women Leaders Forum actually had to be set up. And the objective of the forum was to, create opportunities for capability development within women, identify challenges, what interventions as an industry one can bring in, right, to really improve the percentage of women leaders, especially in the senior roles. And how can we create platforms that can help build, women leadership pipeline? And also to possibly look at policies that actually encourage, gender diversity. So with this objective, the Women Leaders Forum was set up, and like I said, launched in June 2021, and we've organized the forum into various work streams so that we have a very, focused and concerted effort into driving the agenda and the objectives that I just articulated. So things like looking at partnerships, whom can we partner with externally within the entire ecosystem, what kind of skills and capabilities do we need to look at, development programs like mentorship, networking, talent, policies that I, mentioned. So there are quite a few, I think, interventions, events that have happened in the past few months. I think the critical one being where we actually got about 50 odd women leaders into one room. This happened sometime in September, and actually wanted to understand from the women leaders what is the ask. And there's no surprise that what we set out to do as the Women Leaders Forum, so the ask that came from this 50 women leaders were more or less the same. And mentoring really coming out as, the top of the requirement. So we've looked at various interventions, again, bucketing women into different categories based on their experience or tenure or seniority. Right, the first one I think we've recently tied up with, especially for the mid-manager sector, which is 8 to 12 years, mentoring platform, where HYSEA partnered with Beyond Pinks, again, to create this mentorship platform for women in that 8 to 12 years of experience. Now, when we looked at really senior leaders, like women leaders who want to move into more kind of global roles at a higher level of seniority, I think that is where I think the Divershefy, relationship actually kind of, came into being for HYSEA. And Sylvia will definitely, talk about what Divershefy can provide, what is the 6-month program, the plan, etc. But this session today is more an awareness session for everybody who's joined on the call, the HYSEA member organizations. And clearly, if there is interest within the members organization for us to take this forward, and HYSEA will then start working with Divershefy to how do we really shape this and make this platform, this intervention. And it's a key intervention, right? We're looking at senior women leaders who really want to take on this, global roles. Then how do we really take this forward to really, get that into an implementation stage? So I'm very sure. I think the session today will be very, very insightful. Sylvia will walk through the details of the entire program. I think we've also got a couple of wonderful women who've joined us to talk about their experience, with the program as well. And post that, I think my request would just be to everybody, whoever is interested, to be able to reach out to HYSEA to let us know your intent. And like I said, then we will take this forward with Divershefy accordingly. So on that note, Neerja, I'll hand it back to you, and just have a wonderful session.
Thank you, Mamta. I'll now request Ms. Sylvia Smetana, who is the founder of Divershefy, to moderate this session, this panel discussion on how to become a global leader. She will be joined by Gia Fisher. She's non-executive director, virtual CISO, DPO, information security, cybersecurity, PMO at MIAG, and Tejaswini Tilak, APAC lead for DIB and senior director, segment marketing at Equinix. I'll request Sylvia to moderate this panel discussion on how to be a global leader. Welcome, Sylvia.
Thank you, Mamanta, and also Neeraja. Thank you for the kind introduction. And also, this topic is really close to my heart. I have been living in 3 continents and working in those places, US, Europe, and in India. And for me, becoming a global leader is actually a really important journey. And it really is important also to bring more women into these top leadership roles, because we want to actually have an awareness and a possibility to see more women leaders at the top, so that we can change business culture in the organizations around the globe. So being a global leader is something that one grows into. And the best and fastest way to become a global leader is to learn from those who have walked the path and are willing to help others. And Divershefy is really a network of senior women leaders who are in boardrooms and C-suites, who are willing to help other women to get there. So we have such great global leaders with us today. And let me briefly introduce Gia and Tejaswini a little more. So Gia is a global virtual CISO and DPO in the EMEA region as well as Americas. She is a champion of the value of security in risk-aligned global growth and transformation agendas, and designs global security initiatives and programs. She's a strategic partner to Fortune 100 and 500 business leaders with expertise at delivering best-in-class, future-focused strategic IT transformations that drive up growth for B2B and B2C companies in the need to improve data security. So she's a real IT person. So in terms of HYSEA, she's definitely one of the women that would be with HYSEA if she was in India. Tejaswini Tilak, is a senior director and segment marketing at Equinix in Asia Pacific. She's leading the go-to-market planning and execution to help deliver strategic insights and solutions to enterprises in the region. She serves as a global head of career. She served in the past as a global head of career services at Telstra Global in Singapore. And she has also held a leadership position in product management at Tata Communications. As an advocate for diversity and inclusion, Tejaswini leads the regional practice for Equinix and formally runs the regional chapter of Equinix Women's Network. So she also regularly speaks on thought leadership forums across the regions. So with the short introduction of the speakers, I would like to start with the questions that I have to start first with Tejaswini. So Tejaswini, I know you have been a global leader for some time. I'm very proud to say also you're a founding member of Divershefy Club. And I would like to ask you, how did you become a global leader? Tell us a bit about your journey, and also what were the challenges that you faced as a woman from India starting to lead global teams?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Sylvia. And firstly, just want to say hi to everyone. And thanks to HYSEA for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here. I wish there were more forums like this when we were starting out our career. So it's excellent to see this. So to your question, it's a two-part question. So the first part about, my journey or experience around leadership. I wouldn't say that my journey was super planned, but it ended up being fairly logical, taking on a role as a national lead, then regional, and then global. But what's also happened along the way is I have switched multiple times between doing regional roles as well as global roles. So in some ways, when I moved out of India and joined Telstra, the first opportunity I got was to lead their regional product management function. Having established that, after a few years, I was tasked to lead a global team of senior product managers that were based all around the world. And then, when my Equinix opportunity came along nearly 10 years ago, that was a regional role. And I was okay to sort of, switch back from global to region to start gaining a different type of experience. Again, at Equinix, having been here now for a decade, a few different things happened in terms of leadership. Firstly, I started in the region. I was pulled into global roles. I did those for a few years. I wanted to then be closer to the field because a lot of what we are doing is around enterprise pursuit and enabling solutions for enterprises in the region. So I wanted to be close to that and get that experience. So I moved back. But the advantage of making those moves has been all the networks and connections that were formed. So when there was a global strategy project that got kicked off a couple of years ago, I was still asked to sort of lead that. And I did that for a couple of years. So that very much had a global mandate. And equally, if you sort of take the view that leadership is all about influence, you don't need to wait to get a title to be a leader. Again, this opportunity came along to channel my passion around diversity and inclusion into action. And so as you referred, yes, I did get the opportunity to found our women's network, and now I lead our D&I strategy. So, varied set of experiences in many different types of contexts and different types of global cultural teams, which I think, have been really, really rich as a learning and grooming ground for me. The aspect about being a woman from India, I'll touch on that briefly. Absolutely, it does take a little bit of a mindset shift if you're working in India versus if you're starting to work with regional or global teams. There was one funny experience I would share, which maybe some of you might relate with, is I remember my first ever global conference call. It was with FedEx, and I joined, and there were people dialing in from many, many different countries. And literally for the first 15-20 minutes, I couldn't even understand what was being said because the accents kept shifting. And I kind of had a moment where I thought, gosh, maybe I'm not made out for this. But then, you settle, you learn. And today I can probably tell you a Chinese from a Korean accent, from a Japanese accent in a blind test. So you go through that learning. But the other sort of thing I've noticed, both for myself as well as team members I've had or colleagues I've had, particularly if you're coming from India, is the challenge of speaking up in a global setting. Generally, and you'll notice that the minute Gia starts to speak, but a lot of Western cultures are very open and outgoing and very confident in how you guys speak, and that can be intimidating. And it's a challenge I think both men and women from India face. But my view on this now is it's my job to speak up. If I'm part of a team, it's my job to make sure my voice is heard, because that's how I'm contributing to the team. So even if it's awkward and difficult, you've got to do that.
Great, awesome. Thank you. That was good insights. And I'm sure, Gia can share some of her experience on that as well. So Gia has worked in the US and is now in Europe, and she's working with clients from many different countries. So Gia, how did you become a global leader, and what were the learnings on your journey, having lived in different places and, the kind of different cultures you have encountered?
Well, first, thank you for inviting me to speak on this panel. It rings true to my heart, and you'll find out later why. But this is a really good panel discussion to have, especially for ladies that are aspiring to get into that global arena of leadership. I actually got into or became a global leader early on in my career when I transitioned from being in, I was in marketing for a long time in the entertainment industry, and then I segued into technology in the mid 90s. I've been working since 1983. And when I started doing a lot of global work, it was as I was going up the ladder. So I would lead teams on initiatives in various countries, being the home base was the States. And then from there, taking a lot of courses in international business along my path, my career path, so that I could fine tune my communique style with my colleagues in various countries. And then even going further, when I got my master's in international business and economics, that helped flourish my career even more. But I think when you're embarking on a global leader role, the one thing I would suggest you absolutely do is take a course in international business. That's going to be your Bible. No matter what industry you're in, that helps you to communicate in a way that advances you in your chosen field, because the people that you speak with will have respect for you because they see that you have respect for them and their culture. And that's a big deal. I know when I went to Germany once, I'll use this as an example, my colleague didn't understand various cultures, as unfortunately some Americans don't travel as much. I come from a multi-ethnic background, so my family is spread out through the Egypt to Scotland to France and Brazil. And so with that being said, I'm surrounded by that in my household. However, this particular scenario was interesting to me, and I kind of covered it up, but we stood outside the door of a person that we were going to meet, a client, and my colleague wanted to walk right in, and I just gently held his arm back, and I waited, because you don't walk into somebody's office in Germany, you wait until you're asked to come in. That's respect. And you don't pull the chair out to sit down until they say, please have a seat. In America, unfortunately, we're a bull in a china shop. We just run all over the place because we expect everybody to just bow and genuflect. And that's not the case. And over the past years, I think Americans have now realized you have to be a better global player. You've got to be a better global teammate. For ladies in various countries, particularly in India, understanding the dynamic of the various cultures will really, really escalate your path towards going up that career ladder. It's going to be bumpy. It always is. I mean, I've been working now, it's coming up on 40 years in corporate global space, and we still have a long way to go as women. I'm probably it's very rare to see a multi-ethnic lady as a chief information security officer. Even more so, MIAG is my company, and I relaunched it when we went through layoffs at IBM, and I decided to make the move. I moved myself to Europe because I worked remote, and it felt like home for me. So I actually live in the Monaco area. You won't see that, but with that coming into play, no matter what you want to do, you can do. I'm living proof of that. No matter what role you're looking to escalate in, you can do it, because believe me, I've had more than my share of obstacles and still do. But having that respect for the various cultures and making sure that you're humble yet confident about what you can bring to the table, that's your ticket to becoming a seasoned global leader.
Thank you, Gia. I think the point that you made about respect is really important also. I've worked in Europe and in the US, and then I came to India, and obviously Indian culture is quite different in terms of what it means to respect somebody, right? So that is still a learning. I'm still learning on that front. And I think we all have to keep learning because cultures are different, and we are finding our way. So thank you very much for sharing this. So you kind of touched on it, Gia, but maybe to ask more specifically, what kind of support or training were important for you to reach that role? You said this international business.
Yeah,
thing.
absolutely. And one thing that has helped with my career is always being an innovator, a leader. So staying ahead. I never touched on different technology after everybody else was doing it. What I did, and this is something I borrowed from my career in marketing within the entertainment industry, because I had a double major. I'm living out my second major, which is information technology. Then it was business info technology. But what you do is you start forecasting and trend analysis. Think about what you would feel would be important in your field in the next 3 or 4 years, and then start working on becoming an expert at that.
Mhm.
So for example, in the mid to late 90s, I'd say 97, 98, I had started taking e-commerce courses. I was building websites. I was learning how to do security socket layers, all of that in preparation for e-business. And nobody was really, I mean, Rocket Mail was popular in 96, 97, and AOL, which, you know, was like the god awful, you had to wait forever for you to connect. However, me having that skill under my belt elevated me into roles that I probably wouldn't have gotten into if I had waited to see that everybody else was doing this. I should do it. Think about what you feel would be something that is cutting edge or robust, and then fine tune it. Take the educational courses to get there. The other thing is that I joined a couple of groups, just a few networking groups that were global, and expanded that way. And then I had friends all over the world, you know, because I had worked with different people in different countries. So I was always interested in learning how they communicate and how the work schedule is. I mean, you know, in America, we work 24/7. Nobody rests. Even if you're having a kidney surgery, you're still going to be available on the cell phone. It's ridiculous. Seriously. And it's not a joke. It does happen. However, in other countries, they respect the work-life balance. So I think culture feeds into how much you rise up to being a global leader. Because if you're tunnel vision and only understand what is happening in your country, so if you only know what's going on in India and you know nothing else, or you only understand what's going on in the UK and nothing else, it will be extremely hard for you to rise up that ladder. But when you have many colleagues that can vouch for you and vet that you're a global leader, and it's because of how you communicate, then that says something. And I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think communication is critical, and being seen, being out there, having a global network of leaders that know you and can vouch for you, I think is absolutely an important part of the journey. So thank you, Gia. It just really, you know, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you think, what kind of trainings helped you, and also maybe why a program like the one that we're planning with HYSEA, Divershefy is planning with HYSEA, would actually help women.
Well, I tell you what, I actually, when I got my certification in project management, it was a combination with PMI and DePaul University, one of the Ivy League schools in the US. The reason I'm bringing this up is because with Divershefy partnering with HYSEA, it's a similar curriculum, meaning that you have two leaders in a field that come together to launch a course. That in and of itself tells you it's extremely important to take. But also, when you're taking these combo courses with two leaders, it's the name recognition. It's the fact that, wait a minute, if they're putting this together, and I have yet to see any other country do this, by the way. And I've been working a long time, and I've been all over the world. So this is an excellent opportunity for ladies to participate in this type of course, because that's what I did in the late 90s. I participated in a course to get my certification. And then I went on to other schools that had quote unquote fast track executive management classes. Then I went and took a lot of technology classes at IIT, which is the sister school of MIT. Then I went, it was always, I was looking at either top tier organizations that had programs like yourself, Divershefy and HYSEA. When these organizations put this together, I can't even stress enough that you have to be a part of that, because that name recognition goes a long way on your resume. And then also the people that you meet, because you'll meet and network with individuals that you may not have necessarily met in other scenarios. So I think education, the organizations like yourself and HYSEA and the programs that they put together, which this one is unique, never seen it before, because I did look to see who else is doing this and I haven't seen it. There is one, but it's with Harvard, and my God, it's yeah, I wouldn't, it's too much money. But this is along those lines, you know. And then of course with specialty schools for technology, absolutely look at your MITs, your IITs, Carnegie Mellon, any of the Ivy League schools that have those executive programs or technology programs, jump on that, because that will also escalate you becoming a global leader.
Thank you, Gia. So Tejaswini, what is your experience on that?
Yeah, so I mean, I totally agree with Gia on, you know, some of the formal training. Obviously, that is very helpful. Maybe I'll give a slightly different spin on this to complement, you know, what Gia's been talking about. Personally, I think, you know, to sharpen your leadership skills, you can undertake exercises that or programs that help you to sharpen some of the softer aspects of leadership. So in my case, for example, I found 360 feedback to be really, really useful. I've done that several times, and it's given me fantastic feedback, not just the score that comes out of it, but the comments that you get through it. They are wonderful because people have taken the time to actually share their candid feedback with you. And not all of it makes for good reading, but it certainly is helpful to take that back. I've also had the benefit of working with a couple of executive coaches. And that really, really helps because you get an outside-in view on yourself and where are the key areas that you work on that will then move the needle the most, right? So that's very helpful. If you get an opportunity, I would definitely recommend that. But besides that, you know, in every organization or in your network, there would be people that you would see as mentors. And I've often sort of reached out and had mentoring conversations, either with my direct manager or with other sort of leaders in the business. And again, that's very useful as a sort of a checkpoint every now and again on what you could do differently. How are you being perceived? I mean, one of the things that I learned was a bit of an aha moment for me was when someone said, look, perception is reality. So it's not about who you are or how you're sort of, you know, how you think you're behaving as a leader, but it's about how you're perceived as a leader. So getting that external viewpoint gives you a good sort of sense on that. And the last thing I'll say on this particular thing is what I like to do is to observe leaders in action. I do that all the time. I observe the words they use, their body language, their actions, you know, their behaviors, how they show up. And I found that that's such a rich group, you know, sort of rich learning ground, because you can learn both from good leaders and bad. You know, you obviously encounter both sets as we go along our career. But either ways, you get really good insights on what is good leadership and what is maybe not as good leadership. And so I always look out for opportunities to observe, and I've found that to be very helpful.
So the global leadership teams that you have worked with, how have you built a network in this kind of context?
Yeah, well, actually, I mean, you had the other part of your question in terms of a program like this, and I completely agree with what Gia said. You know, if I have to sort of say, what's the one biggest deficiency in my own journey, I would say having access to such a network would be one. You know, besides the formal aspects of what you'll get from the course curriculum, etc. You know, the power of the network is so immense. And I'll admit in the spirit of being vulnerable that networking doesn't come naturally to me. I have to really push myself out of a comfort zone. And I think that's true of a lot of women. But on the flip side, you also need opportunities too. And I just feel like probably through my journey, there weren't that many opportunities that were easily accessible to just go in and participate in a few networks. You learn through the curriculum, but the people you meet are so interesting, and you can learn so much for them and form long-term connections. So yeah, I mean, if you're getting this opportunity, just grab it.
Thank you. So I think we kind of have come to the almost end of this panel discussion. So if people have questions, they can put it in the chat. I think I've seen one so far. Let me just pull that up. Any reference on the course for international business strategy that was for HYSEA? Do you have any specific, maybe, I don't know, I think you mentioned which course you had taken, right? HYSEA, you're on mute.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to find my mute button. So there are a couple that, and I was trying to pull it up because I saw that there's, if we're looking at types of courses within international business that stand out, I have a list. And I'm actually going to read from it, but I'll put it in the chat. Leadership challenges that some company presidents and senior executives embark on. That's a good aspect of international business, understanding what those challenges are. Because as we become global leaders, we have to put ourselves in the shoes of a CEO, which are who I usually partner with, are the CEOs and the CFOs. And sometimes I have to present to boards. So if you know what their pressure points are, you can become a partner. And that means from a global perspective. Also looking at the building a market-driven organization. That in and of itself, we're a global community. No matter what company you're with, the goal is to be global. So understanding that and understanding that market-driven aspect, that's key. Strategic decisions, economics, so integrated financial and managerial accounting, but also economics is huge. I can't stress that enough. That is a big one. Looking at the contemporary global environment, and what that means is looking at there's a couple of countries that we consider growth countries. And I believe Brazil was one, Africa was another one, and I can't remember the third and fourth one. But there is a stream of different economic challenges, or where other countries like the EU, like the United States, like the EEA, and the Middle East, they all look at, these are growing countries. We need to embark on it, i.e. looking at Asia, going into Africa and building up, because they saw that this was an avenue of expansion. Getting your mind around that, that's what gets you to that point of understanding international business, and also taking a course like what Divershefy and HYSEA has combined, because that's what I did. I did that. I did my international business master's. I have that Presidential Key Executive MBA from Pepperdine, that program, but I also took another course that's similar, but not quite as robust as what HYSEA and Divershefy have. And that helped me up that ladder and feel more confident in how I communicate.
Great, awesome. So I think there's already requests to talk more about the program itself, so we'll switch to that. But before I do that, one thought maybe that inspires you daily to embrace a global perspective.
Forward thinking.
Awesome. Also, what you said about innovation, I think is really a key point.
Yes.
Being a thought leader is actually part of being a global leader, as a thought leader.
And another one is ESG. That is a topic, if you can get your arms around that, that's environment, sustainability, and governance. If you can get your arms around that, that is key, because that's what every country is looking to master. They have programs in place that they're working on so that they can be more in tune with that. So any book you can get on ESG, any courses you can take or whatever you can grab your hands on, get that. That's a big, big, big subject.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Gia. Thank you for joining today. Tejaswini.
Yeah, I think for me, it's a quote which goes, be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. So be yourself as a leader. You don't need to imitate someone, or, just play to your strengths, be your authentic self. But on the flip side, ensure that you're enabling your team also to show up as their authentic selves, because that's when, everyone performs to their best.
Awesome. Great. So thank you very much. So let me now change. Thank you, Tejaswini, also for joining today and sharing your experience. So now we're moving from this to the actual presentation of the program. So just a quick question. Can everybody see the first slide?
Yes, we can see some.
Yes, great. Awesome. So we're talking about the real Global Leader Certification Program. And I'm going to tell you why I'm calling it the real Global Leader Certification Program is because there's an aspect of what does it mean to be really global? Second part is, why do we need a global certification program? And how can you use that going forward? So, let me just, So first, I wanted to just quickly introduce Divershefy a little more. So Divershefy's focus is really on bringing women into boardrooms and C-suites. And we do that globally. So we are in the US, in Europe, and in India. We have 3 offices. And our mission is to create a more effective, innovative, collaborative, and balanced teams on board and C-levels. And obviously that includes, and specifically includes, women leaders in boardroom and C-suite. And our vision is really to have 50% of top level leaders be women. That seems very ambitious on one hand. On the other hand, why not? Why would there not be? Okay. So then the question is also, why has HYSEA chosen to work with Divershefy? I think that was already mentioned very early on in the call today, that there's more programs are provided on low and mid-level managers and female managers. And HYSEA was really looking for something that would be serving the top level female leaders. So Divershefy is only working with top level female leaders, and that is why they brought us into this program. And also we have shown a track record of execution excellence, which I'm personally very proud of, and also it's something that I really care about. So why do we call it the real Global Leader Certification Program is because there are other organizations that call it a global certification program, a global leader certification program, but they only have speakers from India or from their own country and not actually speakers from different countries. And I feel if you're talking about a global leader certification program, you need to get input from different countries. You can't just do it from one country because that's not a global perspective. So in order to have a global perspective in this training program, we are bringing in speakers from Australia, Singapore, different countries in the EU, as well as the US. Of course, you could have even further Africa and other places as well, but this is the leaders that we have found that are willing to do this course with us. Divershefy also has a global network of board and C-level leaders already, who are willing to mentor the people who are joining the program. So we have women who are already in these roles, willing to help you get there. And I think that's an important part for a global program, is to have somebody who has walked the path, having them on your side. Also, the participants can join virtually from around the globe. So it's not, you don't have to be in India, you don't have to be locally in India to be able to join a program. So we will potentially also have people outside of HYSEA who can join the program. But it is primarily focused on HYSEA and anybody who wants to join from that membership base. So why are we doing this program? So basically, when we are thinking about what can we offer to senior women leaders for HYSEA, is we are thinking about women leaders who want to reach a global leadership position, who are actually actively looking for that, who want to understand what it takes to get there, who want to prepare for the challenges that they will face entering into those roles, for women who want to know how to apply the solutions, how to connect with and learn from international top-level leaders, and who want to get mentored by those women who have already gotten those leadership roles. So these are the women that we want to engage with and help to actually reach into those high-level positions. In terms of the topics we're covering, the first topic is the Global Leaders Path, which is really about the goals and perspectives that each woman wants to develop. And we have a speaker called Jane Horan, who is going to be, she is actually somebody from the US. She's living in Singapore. She has worked with Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies around the globe. So she's definitely somebody that can share her own experience. And she's going to be speaking specifically about what the path entails. She's a coach. She's actually an executive coach working with very, very high-level leaders around the globe. The second topic is about strategic networking and reputation management. And the speaker is going to be Angela Cross. She is from Australia, and she has basically been working with leaders, and specifically board and C-level leaders, whose reputation has suffered for some reason or another. There's some scandal, some board had some insider trading, or you name it, these kind of issues that come up. How do you recover your reputation? So she's a specialist in this topic, and she's also a specialist in really how do you create, strategically create a global network. So the next topic is going to be about global leadership styles. We potentially have two speakers on that. One speaker is going to be Janine Lewis. So she's an African-American living in the US. She has worked with very big companies. Let me just quickly check. That included Coca-Cola, Marriott Hotel, Nordstrom, Walmart, and Best Buy. So she has really worked with some very big companies. And she's very deeply skilled at creating and cultivating relationships with organizations and translating business needs and concepts into tactical strategies. So she's really a strategist and top-level leader. The fourth topic is on multicultural differences and global perspectives. So on the fourth masterclass, we have Anita Shukla. She's originally from India. She's actually living in Germany. She has parents, one parent is German, one parent is Indian. So she has grown up in a multicultural household, similar like Gia said she did. And she's an executive coach and consultant specifically on global collaboration with focus on EU and India. And she's an expert training in cross-cultural communication. So a part of what we talked about today earlier is communication styles are very different. What it means to respect another culture is very different. So we need to understand these clues. And now that everything is virtual, more and more virtual, body language is even harder to read. So we need to even be more aware of the cultural differences and clues, even virtually. How can we perceive when somebody feels they are not respected, for example? The fifth topic is negotiate your value. And our speaker, Susan Moldenauer, she is a finance and career coach. She has worked with several hundred women in how they can know their value, how they can negotiate the salaries, how they can promote themselves in the context of renegotiating salaries or for new positions and getting hired into another position. She's working with them to actually make sure that they can get their best value. And she has recently launched a book called Know Your Value. So she's actually an author as well. And the last topic is about board politics and C-suite emotional intelligence, as well as resilience. Our speaker will be Marian Bruce. She's also an advisory board member of the Divershefy Club. She has been former Fortune 100 division vice president and CEO. She's also an independent director of many different organizations at the moment, and she will share her many years of experience on this topic, from being in the boardroom and being in the C-suite and how to deal with this politics and how to apply emotional intelligence. So this is basically the lineup of topics that we're going to be covering, but just to give you a little bit of an outline of the program, how we're going to run it. So the orientation session, we are planning for a 90 minutes orientation session, and in a minute I go into a little more detail on that. We're going to plan a 6 months program, at least as of now, unless we get input from you all that is not working, but we have a reason why it's 6 months. And we have 6 master classes with the people I just introduced. We have 6 months mentoring, 6 self-study courses, and optionally 6 months sponsoring. Obviously, you're all aware the difference between mentoring and sponsoring. Sponsor is somebody in your company who can actually promote you. As they see you're growing and you are becoming more capable, they will open doors for you. A mentor is somebody often outside of the company, can be inside also, but if they are outside of the company, you don't have that leverage to promote you within the company. That's why we think having a sponsor might be a very good option. If somebody can find a sponsor within the organization, we can definitely recommend that. And we can also, we will also show you how you can move on that. And then at the end, we'll have a certification ceremony where we'll also invite the graduates to be speaking to a global audience. So Divershefy has a global audience, and we will invite you to speak to the audience. That is going to be part of this certification ceremony. So the reason why we do 6 months, and that is something that I wanted to share with you, is because growing takes time and learning takes time. And if you compress it into 3 months or into some very small amount of time, the learning effect will be less, in my opinion. So we want this to be a really transformational journey for you. So we want you to take the time to actually go through the whole experience and absorb it fully. So activation is the first step, then the demonstration, application, integration. These are all things that need to happen around each topic, right? So for the activation part, we have the self-study. So you familiarize yourself with the topic. We have video recordings, you can answer some questions, you just get to know the topic more. The second part is then a masterclass where you actually, somebody demonstrates and shares their experience of what they did, and you can engage with them, you can interact with them. At the end of the master classes, we have a cohort where you can discuss further what your understanding was of the master class. And the third thing is the mentoring. So we are providing women leaders who have reached boardroom and C-suite that can help you actually get there. So they will be helping you to apply what you have learned in those classes to your actual situation at work. So you can work with them to apply that. The integration part is we really feel that the sponsorship is helpful to actually integrate that. Okay, you have tested it at work, you have tried some things. Does it work for you? How do you integrate it in your daily schedule? How do you integrate it in your new career goals? And that is where we feel the sponsorship would really help. So we are doing a 6 months program because we want you to go through all 4 of these for all 6 topics. And we want you to have enough time to do that. We don't want you to rush it. We want you to actually be able to really absorb it. So that being said, before you get started, we actually have an orientation session that will allow you to understand the structure better, we tell you how you get access to the learnings material, how the mentoring process works. We get you to see some of the mentors or even match you with a mentor. We will introduce some of the mentors. And then we will tell you how the sponsoring process usually works. There's a certain strategy that usually people go about how to find a sponsor in the organization. Then we will talk about the attendance requirements, because the certification process will require you for a minimum kind of score, you can say. And we will talk about that in the orientation session. And then there's going to be question and answer. So the orientation session is after people have signed up. This is only for people who are actually committed to the process. Then we will go through the orientation session with you. So the 6 months, just to highlight that again, there's 6 online live masterclasses with the speakers. There's 6 months of mentoring with the global board and C-level leaders. There's 6 self-study courses with global speakers that we have already had, and you can answer questions. The sponsoring is optional. The sponsorship part is optional. We will have a review process after 3 months to make sure that you're on track, that that you get the kind of support that you need, and the certification ceremony after 6 months. So just to highlight that again, the graduates will be featured as global speakers. There will be a handover of the certificate, and then there's an optional induction into the Divershefy Global Network if you choose to. Part of the program, of the certification program, is a full year membership of Divershefy if you want to. It's not obligatory, it's voluntary. So if you feel inspired to join that program, then you can either email HYSEA directly, you can email Niraja or any of the membership coordinators at HYSEA, or you can email info@divershefy.com directly. We will share with you an application form, and we will ask some questions. And then once you have submitted the form, please do it before March 15. So there's enough time for us to look it over, send you an invoice, and then we ask you to pay please before March 31st. Anybody who has joined, paid before March 31st will then be invited to the induction, to the first orientation session. We are planning to start this program in April, assuming that we have enough signups for this program. There's a minimum sign-up number of people required to run this program. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed the session today. I think we are almost at the end of the session anyway. So I'll hand over back to Niraja, I guess. Anybody, if you want any questions, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I mean, we have some questions here. One from Archana. She says, oh, it was for Tejaswini, actually.
Yeah, go ahead. You can ask Tejaswini, that's fine.
Yeah, how did you prepare yourself to become a global leader, and what is the groundwork done to reach this position? So the question from Archana for Tejaswini. And about this, what is the criteria that would get an applicant as approved to join the course? What is the criteria?
That's something I can answer right away. I'm not sure where Tejaswini can come in anytime when she's available. Maybe let me answer that one. The criteria is basically you have to be in a senior leadership role. Okay, that's one criteria. You have to want to, and that obviously is not something we can check, but you have to have the intention to become a global leader. And you have to be committing to basically coming to these master classes, the live master classes. So once a month, you actually have to show up. If you miss one session, it's not the end of the world, but if you miss several sessions, then it wouldn't work really. So the application itself is basically giving your information on your current role, on your goals, on the motivation to join the course, basically.
And what is the cost of this program? Can you please share it once again?
Yeah, so the cost of the program is $950 for the 6 months program, and that includes a 1-year membership for the Divershefy Club. And we can invoice in Indian rupees. That's no issue. You can pay in Indian rupees into an Indian bank account.
Okay. What is the evaluation criteria for the certification? I mean, of course, being present for all the classes and that is could be one, but otherwise, what is the evaluation criteria for the certification?
Yes, so that's one is, as we said, the actual participation, but also the engagement during the master classes, right? We don't want you to just show up and be quiet. We actually want you to engage and ask questions, ask smart questions, engage with the speakers. That's very important. Second thing is the self-study. Obviously, you answer the questions. So from the questions, we can see how engaged you are, how much do you understand of what has been said. The third thing is the mentors. So we're gonna ask the mentors how the mentoring process has gone and what their experience is. The sponsorship, we keep our hands off. So the sponsorship is up to you whether you do it or not and what the progress is. We're not gonna consider that as part of the certification process. It's just a suggestion. But the other 3 things we are gonna check and we're gonna look into it. But of course, it's not a test. You're not in school and it's not a university where you have to pass a test, but it's your engagement that really counts.
And the fee that you mentioned, Sylvia, is does it apply to everybody or it's only for HYSEA members, or should they be HYSEA members?
They should be HYSEA members. At the moment, we are only actually advertising it or promoting it for people who are either HYSEA members or members of the Divershefy Club.
Okay. And considering the situation is improving on the COVID front, do you think everything will be, all the master classes will be virtual, or is there a possibility for some physical in-person classes also?
My suggestion is that the master classes themselves, the speakers are going to be all around the globe, right? So they will be wherever they will be. If say in July or August or whenever we have the possibility to meet in person, we can meet in Hyderabad and have the masterclass be a session within a bigger, like a 4-hour session. You can do a 4-hour workshop in Hyderabad and have the masterclass be one part of that, and then get to know each other, interact, discuss the topic some more. We had originally planned that actually to have an in-person class also, but with COVID, we decided let's plan it for virtual. If it opens up and we can do it in person, then we can offer a 4-hour workshop as well.
So I think we've come to the end of questions from the participants also. I hope we have answered everything that they asked. Yes.
So somebody had asked about what do you mean by sponsorship program? We'll explain that in the introduction session, what exactly that usually implies.
Okay. Oh, great. So thank you, Sylvia. Thank you for taking time and doing this awareness session. I hope all the attendees have benefited from it. And a big thank you to Gia and Tejaswini for joining us today. And thank you to Vishnupriya also for coordinating with Divershefy and HYSEA.
Thank you very much, HYSEA. I want to thank you for putting this together, and I want to thank you, Neeraja, specifically also for putting in the time to organize this.
A pleasure.
Vishnupriya is somebody who's helping both sides,
Yes.
HYSEA and Divershefy, to make this happen. So thank you, Vishnupriya, for coordinating everything together. And let's make it happen. Let's make this program a big success and help women leaders to actually step up to do global roles.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, this topic is very close to our heart, especially at HYSEA. And every leader in HYSEA, gives importance to this topic, and this topic is very close to their heart. So I hope our members will be interested in this program and they find it useful and they join in.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. You all have a nice weekend. I mean, if
Thank you.
tomorrow is not working day.
Bye. Take care.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.